Phase 1, the impossible feat. Part A, a glitch in history. For 1,500 years ago, while humanity was just learning to write on papyrus, a structure was rising from the desert sands that would defy the laws of physics forever. The Great Pyramid of Giza. This isn't just a pile of rocks. It's an impossible machine. It is so massive that it weighs 6 million tons, equivalent to 12 modern Burj Khalifas combined. But the real mystery isn't its size, it's the how. In an era without the wheel, iron tools, or cranes, how did they lift 50-ton stones 480 feet into the air? Is this merely human labor, or is there a lost technology hidden in history that we have yet to rediscover? Part B, the math beyond human accuracy. Let's look at the geometry. The base covers 13 acres, yet it is perfectly level. There is less than a 1-inch deviation across the entire foundation. According to modern engineers, achieving this level of precision without laser-guided tools is practically impossible, but it goes deeper. The 4 sides of the pyramid are aligned to true north with such accuracy that it seems like a miracle, considering the compass wasn't invented for another few thousand years. Even in the 21st century, recreating this would require high-end satellite GPS. So, how did they do it in 2500 BC? Part C, the mysterious geography. Why Giza? Most people think the pharaoh just picked a random spot in the sand. Research suggests otherwise. The Great Pyramid sits almost exactly at the geographical center of the Earth, the intersection of the longest line of latitude and longitude. Furthermore, there is the Orion correlation theory. If you look at the 3 stars of Orion's belt at night, the 3 pyramids of Giza are built in a near-perfect alignment with them. Was this a massive coincidence? Or did the ancient Egyptians possess astronomical knowledge that we are only now beginning to decode? Behind these stones lies a science that was buried by time. Part D, the white casing and the golden ratio. We must remember that the pyramid we see today is just a skeleton. Originally, it was covered in polished white limestone casing stones. It would have dazzled in the sunlight and gleamed under the moon like a giant star on Earth. At the very top sat the pyramidion, a capstone likely made of solid gold. Additionally, the dimensions of the pyramid encode the mathematical constant dollar by dollar, dollar backslash by dollar, and the golden ratio. Numbers that define the beauty of the universe. To build such a monument required more than just muscle. It required a master understanding of the cosmos and mathematics. But where did this knowledge come from? And why did it seemingly vanish?
Phase 2, the Pharaoh and the Vision. Part A, the God King, Khufu's ambition. To understand the Great Pyramid, we must first understand the man who dreamed it into existence, Pharaoh Khufu. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh wasn't just a ruler, he was a living god. Death was not the end for him, but merely the beginning of an eternal journey. Khufu wanted to surpass his father, Sneferu, who had built 3 pyramids but never achieved the mathematical perfection Khufu craved. He tasked his royal architect and half-brother, Hemiunu, with a challenge that had never been attempted in human history: build a home that will conquer time itself. This wasn't just a tomb, it was a grand statement of Egypt's supreme power. To fund this, the entire nation's economy was pivoted toward a single point in the desert. Part B, slaves or paid workers. The great myth. For centuries, popular culture, from Hollywood movies to old history books, told us that the pyramids were built by thousands of slaves under the lash of a whip. But in the 1990s, a discovery near the Giza Plateau shattered this myth forever. Archaeologists found the Workers' Village, a highly organized city that housed over 25,000 people. Skeletal remains found here showed signs of advanced medical care, including successfully healed bone fractures and even brain surgery. Slaves wouldn't have received such elite treatment. These were not oppressed captives. They were highly skilled farmers and craftsmen. They were fed a high-protein diet of beef, bread, and beer, and many considered it an honor to serve their God King. This was the world's first massive, organized labor force. Part C, the logistics, feeding a Bronze Age army. Imagine the logistical nightmare of feeding 25,000 workers every single day in the middle of a desert. Tons of grain and meat had to be shipped in daily. This was only possible because of the Nile, the lifeline of Egypt. Every year, when the Nile flooded the fields and made farming impossible, the peasants would head to Giza to work on the pyramid. The river also served as a highway. Massive 50-ton granite blocks were quarried in Aswan, over 800 kilometers away, and floated down the Nile on specialized barges. Managing this supply chain required a level of bureaucratic precision that even modern corporations would envy. It was a masterpiece of human management. Part D. The tools. Copper versus stone. Perhaps the most shocking fact is that these builders had no iron or steel. They worked almost entirely with copper, a relatively soft metal. So, how did they cut through rock-hard granite? Scientists discovered that they used copper saws combined with quartz sand as an abrasive. By rubbing the sand against the stone with the copper blade, they could grind through the hardest materials. Each block was carved so precisely that the gaps between them are virtually non-existent. This level of patience, craftsmanship, and engineering is almost unimaginable in our fast-paced digital world. They didn't have machines. They had time, intelligence, and an unbreakable will. Phase 3. The Engineering War. Part A. The Impossible Incline, the External Ramp Failure. We've seen how the stones were brought to the site, but now we face the ultimate challenge. How did they lift these 50-ton blocks 400 feet into the sky? The most famous theory is the straight external ramp. It suggests a massive slope of earth and rubble was built against the pyramid. But there is a massive engineering flaw here. To keep the slope gentle enough for men to pull a 50-ton block, about an 8% incline, the ramp would have to be over a mile long. This means building the ramp would require more material and more effort than building the pyramid itself. It simply doesn't add up. Was the traditional history we were taught in school fundamentally wrong? Part B. The Spiral Trap, the Corkscrew Theory. If a straight ramp was impossible, what about a spiral ramp? A road that winds around the pyramid like a corkscrew. While this saves space, it creates an engineering nightmare. To ensure the Great Pyramid stayed perfectly straight and symmetrical, surveyors needed to see the corners at all times. A spiral ramp would bury the corners in rubble, making it impossible to check the alignment. If they were off by even an inch at the bottom, the top would be a crooked mess. But as we know, the Great Pyramid is a masterpiece of precision. This suggests the builders had a method that didn't block their view. Part C. The Hidden Architect, Houdin's Internal Ramp. In the late 1990s, French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed a theory that shook the world of archaeology. He suggested the ramp wasn't on the outside, it was on the inside. Houdin's theory posits that the builders used a short external ramp for the base, but then constructed a hidden, internal zigzag tunnel to carry the stones to the very top. This theory gained massive traction when the Scan Pyramids project detected strange voids near the edges of the pyramid. These voids match exactly where workers would have needed open corners to turn the massive stones 90 degrees. It's like a 4,500-year-old multi-story parking garage hidden inside a mountain of stone. Part D. The Grand Gallery, the Giant Counterweight. But even an internal ramp doesn't explain how the 80-ton granite beams for the King's Chamber were lifted. For this, we look at the Grand Gallery, one of the most mysterious rooms in history. It's 150 feet long and 28 feet high, but very narrow. Why build such a strange shape? Houdin believes the Grand Gallery was a massive, mechanical elevator. He proposes a system of wooden trolleys filled with stone weights that would slide down the steep floor of the gallery. As the weights went down, they acted as a counterweight, pulling the massive granite beams up the ramp on the other side. If true, Hemiunu wasn't just an architect, he was the world's first true mechanical engineer, using gravity and physics to achieve the impossible. Phase 4. The Water Power and 2024 Discoveries. Part A. The Lost River, the Aramat Branch. For thousands of years, we assumed the pyramids were built in the middle of a desolate, dry desert. But a groundbreaking study released in 2024 has completely rewritten this history. Using radar satellite imagery and deep soil coring, researchers discovered a lost branch of the Nile River, named the Aramat Branch. This 64-kilometer-long waterway flowed directly past the pyramid sites 4,500 years ago. This means the Egyptian builders didn't have to drag stones for miles across burning sand. They used the river as a massive conveyor belt, floating heavy limestone and granite right to the base of the construction site. But was water just for transport, or was it the engine that built the pyramids? Part B. The Hydraulic Lift, a water-powered elevator. In July 2024, a radical new theory emerged that shocked the world of archaeology. Scientists proposed that the earliest pyramids, like the Step Pyramid of Djoser, were built using hydraulic power. Imagine a massive water elevator. The theory suggests that Egyptians built a complex dam system to collect water, then funneled it through underground pipes into a central shaft inside the pyramid. By opening and closing valves, they could raise the water level, lifting a wooden platform carrying 2-ton stones to the top with minimal human effort. If this technology was applied to Giza, it would mean the Egyptians had mastered fluid dynamics and high-pressure engineering thousands of years before the Industrial Revolution. Part C. The Scientific Dispute: History versus Physics. As fascinating as it sounds, the water theory has sparked a fierce war in the scientific community. Traditional Egyptologists, including the famous Zahi Hawass, have dismissed it as completely wrong, arguing there is no physical evidence of such massive pipes or shafts inside the Great Pyramid of Khufu. However, mechanical engineers argue that the Egyptians were already masters of water management, having built the world's oldest known dam. They believe we are underestimating the intelligence of the ancients. This isn't just a debate about stones, it's a debate about the very nature of ancient human intelligence. Were they simple laborers, or were they high-tech visionaries? Part D. The Drying Climate: Why the Technology Vanished. A haunting question remains. If they had this incredible water-powered technology, why did they stop building giant pyramids? The answer may lie in climate change. The 2024 study suggests that as the region became more arid, the Aramat branch of the Nile began to dry up. Without the force of the river, the hydraulic elevators became useless. Later pharaohs were forced to rely purely on human muscle, which is why their pyramids are significantly smaller and less precise than those of the Giza Plateau. The Great Pyramid stands as a monument to a brief window in history when water and wisdom came together to achieve the impossible. Phase 5. The Unsolved Mysteries. Part A. The Big Void: Particle Physics Meets Archaeology. In 2017, headlines across the globe announced a staggering discovery. A massive, previously unknown empty space had been found deep inside the Great Pyramid. It wasn't found with a shovel or a drill, but through muon tomography, a cutting-edge technique that uses cosmic rays from space to see through solid rock. This big void is at least 100 feet long and sits directly above the Grand Gallery. But the ultimate mystery remains: what is inside? Some archaeologists argue it's merely a structural gap designed to relieve pressure on the rooms below, while others believe it is a secret corridor leading to the true, undisturbed burial chamber of the pharaoh. As of 2026, we have yet to step foot inside, as we search for a way to explore it without damaging the ancient masonry. Part B. The Missing Pharaoh: Where is Khufu? When the first explorers finally breached the king's chamber, they expected to find walls lined with gold and the mummified remains of Pharaoh Khufu. Instead, they found a room of startling simplicity and a lone, empty granite sarcophagus. There were no inscriptions, no treasures, and no mummy. So, where is Khufu? Did grave robbers strip the tomb bare thousands of years ago? Or did the builders pull off the ultimate vanishing act? Many experts now suspect the king's chamber was a decoy, a fake room meant to fool thieves, while the king's real body and his vast treasures remain hidden in a secret chamber that has never been found. Could the Big Void be his final resting place? Part C. The Lost Treasure: The Golden Capstone. Today, the Great Pyramid looks like a rugged mountain of stone, but it was once the most beautiful building on Earth. It was topped with a pyramidion, a capstone likely made of solid gold or electrum. When the first rays of the sun hit that gold, the pyramid would have acted like a lighthouse, visible for hundreds of miles. What happened to it? Was it stolen, or was it never even placed there? Furthermore, the entire structure was once encased in 144,000 highly polished white limestone blocks. If those casing stones were still intact today, the pyramid would reflect light so intensely it could be seen from the moon. We are looking at a ghost of what once was, a skeleton of a golden giant. Part D. The Conclusion: A Message to Eternity. The Great Pyramid is more than just a tomb or a monument. It is a testament to the limitlessness of human potential. It reminds us that when we combine vision, science, and collective will, we can build things that outlast empires. 4,500 years have passed. Civilizations have risen and fallen, languages have been forgotten, but Khufu's house still stands, watching over the desert. Perhaps Hemiunu and Khufu built it exactly for this reason, so that thousands of years later, you and I would still be searching for its secrets. The pyramids may never tell us all their stories, and perhaps that is their greatest gift. The next time you look at the stars of Orion, remember, their reflection on Earth is still waiting for us to uncover the truth.